All right, so our group's process for actually answering the questions is first off, underlining key parts of the prompt. So as you can see, the writer is concerned about the ambiguity of sentences 9. So you want to know what ambiguity is. We learned that in class. It's open to interpretation, or it's open for like multiple meanings of sentences 9 reproduced below. So, but I also know that we're ready to rewrite the story. That's not enough to really get the gist of what the author is trying to say. So you're going to want to go back to where it's saying this. And you also want to identify what kind of question this is. So in the context, that's our step 2, is identifying the question. In the context, which of the following interpretations best articulates? So best articulates, so that's like most concisely, and is also most consistent with the main point of the passage. So it's consistent with the main point, and the main point is to make change in the Springfield community regarding the financial status as the superintendent. So what you want to do is first determine, underline the key parts, which you already did. Determine what kind of question type this is. So you're wanting something that's going to create the greatest, in this context, which is the following. You want to get rid of the ambiguity, and you also want to have the message most consistent with the main point of the passage. So this is a rhetorical type of question. Okay. Now we can actually go back into the text to try to find this one. So it said in sentence 9, where is sentence 9? There we go. So you're going to want to see what that is. We're ready to rewrite, but I also know that we're ready to rewrite history. And before that it says, I love this community deeply. Well, you probably want to read the whole paragraph before actually, which is, 3 is give a glance to the answer choices to eliminate the answer that does not apply. If you already know that an answer doesn't apply, so if you're looking down here and you already see that like one creates more ambiguity, then you would get rid of that one. For example, leave it as it is, but I also know that we're ready to rewrite the history. I would keep that answer for now because you don't know how ambiguous the other answers are. Nevertheless, it's time to go where our district has never gone before. That is even more ambiguous than we're ready to rewrite the story. Or it's like that could mean so many more things than to rewrite the story. To go where our district is never. So you know that's already not a good answer. But let us not forget the past while planning for the future. Now, this is also pretty ambiguous, so I'll leave it there for now. However, we can use lessons of the past to plan the future. I think since these answers are so similar, it's only logical to assume that you're able to get rid of possibly all 3 of them. But don't dwell on the past, instead focus on the future. However, we can use lessons of the past to plan the future, but let us not forget the past while planning for the future. So, in conclusion, since all of those answers are so similar, it's trying to draw you to choose the wrong one, essentially. But I also know that we're ready to rewrite the story comes right after. I know our district has had its challenges. It's pretty evident what the author is trying to say already. So the ambiguity here is essentially the same as it is right here. In these 3 answers, it's the same. And this one, I would argue, is worse. So here you're going to leave it as is. And you wanted to go back to the citation to read the text to know what it was talking about, which we did. We saw that it was talking about the challenges. And then lastly, you would break the answers down into fragments based on the parts it suggests are correct. If one part is wrong, the whole answer is wrong. We essentially went over that. So the next question is going to be, the writer thinks that sentences 15 to 18, form a vague, so the author thinks it's vague, long-winded, and jargon-filled, and hard to follow. I'm not even going to read it yet. I'm just going to look at the question. In the context, which of the following versions best eliminates the writer's concerns and also supports the basic meaning of the passage? So we want to find one that is clear and concise. So because they want to eliminate that jargon-filled, a lot of the yapping, I would say, and the hard-to-follow statement. So they don't want to repeat a lot of things. They don't want it to be as long and wordy. So our second step is to determine what kind of question type this is. And this is a stylistic type because it's just trying to trim the word count down. Give a glance to the answer choices to eliminate the answer that does not apply. So it's like the red herring answer. You can sort of look to see, to meet the demands of the next 5 years, the district must expand, combine, and eliminate some of its facilities. Well, first we actually have to read what it's saying. Looking at the overall picture of the future, the bottom line lies ahead. We require a series of rearrangement, so you want to get the main sort of ideas, such changes can be expansions to larger facilities, closures that will de-inventory some of the district's present-day existing buildings, and consolidations. Okay, and that's about more or less about 5 years down the road is important to note. So first you look at A, and you see to meet the demands of the next 5 years, the district must expand, combine, and eliminate some of its facilities. That is essentially what this said, but trimmed down. So you know that could be correct. I'll mark that for now. Looking 5 years in the future, some of the district's buildings will require expansion, elimination, or reconfiguration. The use of some here is what bothers me the most, because it says looking at the overall future, the bottom line lies that ahead will require a series. So it will require it, but this is just saying some. But it's saying it'll require a series of rearrangements of school configurations. So it's saying essentially for nearly every school in the district. But here it's just saying some of the districts. So I would keep an eye on that question. I'm not going to mark it off yet. Planning for the next 5 years must include reconfiguring the district's facilities by expanding, eliminating, or reconfiguring some of them. Now this one you know is wrong right away because it says reconfiguring 2 times. Include reconfiguring the district's facilities, eliminating or reconfiguring some of them. And we're trying to get rid of jargon, not add it. So you can get rid of that one. The meeting of demands during the next 5 years necessitates that some district buildings will be required to being. Will be required to being. That just sounds wrong. The ear knows it's wrong, and you know it's wrong. Next, within the next 5 years' time, some district buildings must undergo expansion, elimination, or reconfiguration to meet future demands. Now, I would argue that one is also pretty good, within the next 5 years' time, but it also says some district buildings must undergo expansion. These both say some of the districts will require to do something. Some districts must undergo this to meet future demands 5 years into the future and to meet the demands of the next 5 years. So they say to meet future demands, all of them say that, but these two say some districts, some district buildings, some of the district's buildings will require. So when both of them are saying the exact same thing, essentially, you know that they cannot be correct because there can't be 2 right answers. So here you would essentially have to choose A. And yeah, we broke each answer into fragments. We didn't go back into the text for this one, which when you really think about it, it's not a big deal because it's a whole paragraph. And it's just trying to eliminate jargon. You don't really need context for this statement. But usually you would go back into the text when you're supplied with something like this. But when it's much smaller, when it's like a sentence to maybe 3 sentences, but if it's like, or no, maybe a sentence to maybe like 2 sentences. But when it's this broad and it's only asking you to trim it down, you don't really need to know the context to do so. And yeah, that's about it.